All right, come in, welcome. Friends, we come to mourn, we come to offer comfort to each other, and we come to give honor and respect to the life of Dori Wind. We begin this memorial service with psalms and prayers, linking this moment of transition to our tradition and our precious legacy. So we'll start with Psalm 23, a psalm of comfort. We'll recite it in the Hebrew and then together in the English.
Adonai roi lo exar bino deshe yarbitzeni Amen menuchor Amen menuchor Nafshi shovev shovev yancheni v'magilei tzedek yancheni v'magilei tzedek leman shemo
Friends, please join me on the back of your pamphlets. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness, days of my life, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Friends, I'd like to invite Danielle Richardson from the National Corporate Relations Office of the United States Veterans.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I would like to extend a big gratitude to Robert and Dori's family for inviting me and asking me to speak. I didn't want to get up here and be emotional, but I'm just an emotional person. I truly miss Dori. I want to speak about her character. Working with her while I serving in U.S. Vets as a new employee, she exhibited so much integrity and honesty and kindness and generosity and thoughtfulness. And she always treated me with love and openness and kindness. And I will always remember her for that. And even as she was going through her treatments, we would still talk, and she would talk about how she still wanted to do things for U.S. vets and show up for the veterans. And I would say, no, Dori, just rest. I just want to check on you. I just want to see how you're doing. And she was still just up and at 'em. She still just had this energy, zeal, and resilience about her that I will always remember and cherish. She was a long-standing advisory council member serving U.S. vets. If you're not familiar with U.S. Vets is a nonprofit organization that serves homeless veterans and at-risk veterans. And she was just a force with how she served and how she gave back, how she would just pop up. Her spirit was always very sweet and kind. And I will always remember her for that and appreciate her for that, and hope that I can continue to do work in her legacy as I continue my work serving at U.S. Vets. And she's truly missed. I hope to keep in contact with Robert and her family. We welcome them anytime. We welcome you guys to be a part of U.S. Vets. I see the VSW guys, Dave, I see you guys, thank you. I know we're working on putting together a dedication for her at U.S. Vets, and so we would love to have you guys a part of that. But Dori she was an amazing woman, and I really appreciate everything that she did for our organization. So I want to read just a poem that made me think of her. It's a poem of kindness, and so it's not a poem I wrote. It is a poem by a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Wasabi. So I'm going to recite that because that just made me think of Dori. Okay. I enjoy the company of kind people, who willingly share their kindness, wrapping me in a blissful moment of generosity, feeding me the contents of their hearts, serving me the best of humanity, dressing me with joy. Kind people are a blessing. They've been blessed with a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful words, Danielle. It's an honor to hear from Dave Levine, Commander, Houston Levy Post 574.
It's an honor to be here to pay tribute to Dori. Houston Levy Post was chartered in 1964. We've been around, and one of our goals was to help veterans. And we were working with the VA. And then one day at one of our meetings, Dori shows up. And she said, well, you're doing good works for the VA, but how about US vets? And we said, who's that? And she educated us as to the good work that US vets does. But there was more to her involvement than just US vets. When Dori was there, her enthusiasm, her energy was contagious. And the Post caught on to her dedication, to her enthusiasm, and I believe we did a lot more than we would have normally done thanks to Dori. Our work continues. We've appointed a new liaison to US vets. They're looking forward to working with them, and we will always remember Dori and Robert as assets to our organization and force behind a lot of the good works we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. It's an honor to hear from Sheldon Wind, Dori's brother.
My mother and father were born and raised in New York City. My father was an Orthodox Jew and my mother was a conservative Jew. They married in 1948. They moved to Tampa, Florida in 1948 also. I was born in 1949. I have 3 sisters. My sister Barbara was born in 1950. Dori was born in 1952 and Carol in 1953. My parents bought a house located 6 blocks from Rodef Sholom Synagogue. It's a conservative synagogue. My sisters and I attended services at the synagogue often. We attended Sunday school there. I was bar mitzvahed there, and my 3 sisters were all confirmed there. My 3 sisters were all given the award for the most outstanding Sunday school student of the year in different years. My sister and I all attended Hebrew school and learned Hebrew. We also belonged to the youth group known as USY, United Synagogue Youth. The family also belonged to the Jewish Community Center in Tampa and attended many events and belonged to different organizations there. My mother and father, well, my father was a U.S. veteran from World War II, but my mother and father belonged to the Jewish War Veterans Post in Tampa, and my mother served as president of the post 3 different years. My 3 sisters were all Girl Scouts, and I was a Boy Scout. We were all smart kids, very near the top of our class during our school years. Our house had 3 bedrooms. I had one, my parents had one, and my 3 sisters all had the biggest bedroom, which had 3 closets. We also helped do all kinds of things around the house. One year, me and my 3 sisters painted the outside of the house. And we all went to the University of South Florida and got undergraduate degrees. Dori got a degree in journalism. She went to work for a television station in Fort Myers, Florida, known as WINK, Wink. She wrote and helped produce television commercials for local businesses. I graduated from law school at the University of Florida in March 1974. Carol and Dori decided to go to law school in 1975. They went to South Texas College of Law, which is here in Houston, Texas. After graduating, Dori became a law clerk for a federal judge. Thereafter, she became an assistant county attorney for Harris County. Dori continued as an assistant county attorney until her death in August 2025. During her working years, she received many awards for her outstanding and distinguished work on behalf of Harris County as a county attorney. She married Bob in 1982, and they remained married until her death. They have 2 kids, and they're both grown now. And I loved my sister Dori and miss her. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for coming today. Dori died in Boston on August 3rd, 2025, and her funeral was in Boston on August 6th, 2025. Dori and I were in Boston visiting our daughter Jennifer and her family, including our new grandson, Raphael Keren, who was born on June 3rd of that year. Dori's death was sudden, but not unexpected, which I'll explain a little bit later. I met Dori 50 years ago at a Jewish singles party in Freeport, Texas. I've thought about this event and how amazing it worked out that Dori and I ended up marrying 6 years later and had such a wonderful life together for 44 years. In 1975, there was no internet, there was no email, no Facebook, no TikTok, no websites, and no cell phones. This party had to be arranged by word of mouth, and the people who ended up at the party had to be invited by word of mouth. I don't remember who arranged this party, who invited me, whether I drove to this party alone or with someone else. For those of you that don't know, Freeport is about 60 miles from Southwest Houston, so we should have carpooled, but I don't remember. Okay. After the party, I recall being at Susan Hertz's, then Susan Schwartz's apartment with Susan Hertz, Susan Wise, then Susan Booten, Dori, and Susan Hertz's roommate, whose name I don't recall and I'm not sure I ever knew. But that's 4 girls and me, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what I recall. Maybe Simon and Garfunkel had it right. As I mentioned when I spoke in Boston, I must have asked Dori for her phone number because that was the way boys got a relationship started back then, and apparently she gave it to me. Again, in 1975, there's no J-Date, no Tinder, no Facebook Messenger, no texting, no voicemail. So, I had to call her up specifically and ask her out, which I did. And I recall we went on one date to a Chinese restaurant, and another date I recall we went to an Astros game. For Bernie's edification, we actually saw the Cardinals. I do remember that. Hard to believe. And maybe we went on a few other times, but we didn't quite hit it off right then. While we drifted apart, we would always run into each other. During the time we were both at South Texas Law School, we might see each other there. Dori sometimes worked the front desk at the Jewish Community Center, and I would see her there when I went there to swim or play racquetball. Now, after Dori graduated, she got a job. Let me correct something Sheldon said. He downgraded her in one sense and upgraded her in another. All right, first of all, she was not a law clerk. She was a briefing attorney, which is a prestigious, very prestigious position. However, this was not the federal court. It was a state court. So she was a briefing attorney for the 14th Court of Appeals, and I was working for a small law firm. Now, at that time, the 14th Court of Appeals office was at the main civil courthouse complex, and I would occasionally run into her again, sometimes when I was at the courthouse for something, or occasionally at the county law library. Now, tracking again what I said in Boston, the court was having a party for new briefing attorneys at one of the judges' homes. And as fate would have it, she saw me at the courthouse and asked me if I wanted to go. And again, this is several years after we had, dated but not dated. I said, "You mean as a date?" And she said yes. And so we went through the party again, and then we started dating. Now, everybody where I worked thought she was great. Susan Hertz thought she was a good match for me, and she told me so in her own quiet way. And one day I ran into Susan's husband, Barry, in the swimming pool at the JCC, who told me that Dori was wonderful and predicted that we would and should get married. Dori and I went to Connecticut to meet my parents, and they loved her. And we married in Dori's hometown of Tampa, Florida on Sunday. And again, Sheldon, it was not 1982, 1981. So, all right, January 18th, 1981. Now, January 18th, 1981 was a Sunday, and that was the so-called Sunday of the dead week in the NFL schedule, the week between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. More about that later. Dori's briefing attorney position with the court ended in December 1980, just before we got married. Shortly after we got back from our honeymoon, Dori got a job with the Harris County Attorney's Office. She stayed there for about 25 years, left for 2 years from 2006 to 2008, and then was rehired in January 2009, and continued to work there until her death on August 3rd, 2025. Now, I could spend hours talking about her legal career at Harris County. At one time, she was the division chief of the Harris County Hospital District, which is the third largest public health system in the country. She helped revise the Texas Crime Victims and Compensation Program, generating millions annually for health care for victims. Her entry in the 2023 volume of Who's Who in America runs a full page. Even I got a mention in her bio as she wrote, "I also attribute my success to my husband, who helped me instill a love of education in our children." So, guys, you see, it wasn't all mom. Dori's last position was working in the guardianship division with Adult Protective Service. Now, I could also go on for hours about Dori's incredible record of giving back to the community, including here at the Shoal and numerous other organizations. She was extremely active in the Texas Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Network, that's FASD. The purpose of this group is to promote the dangers of pregnant women drinking alcohol and hopefully prevent pregnant women from drinking alcohol. Now, after she died, I received a handwritten sympathy card from the secretary of the FASD network, which I'd like to share with you. Judge Rolnick, please accept my deepest sympathies at Dori's passing. We have not met. I became acquainted with Dori when she joined the board of the Texas Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, FASD network. I admired and appreciate her dedication to preventing FASD and diagnosing it early. Like me, most of our board members were thrust into awareness of advocacy of FASD through painful family experiences. Not Dori. It impressed me that her dedication came through her professional experience. Clearly, she was a very special, altruistic lady dedicated to bettering the lives of those born with the cards stacked against them. On behalf of myself and the Texas FASD Network, we are deeply grateful for her vision and her efforts. May God bless her and bring comfort to your family and you at this difficult time. It's on Julio Rivera, Secretary, Texas FASD Network. It says Colonel, United States Air Force, retired, and JAG. So apparently this individual was an attorney. And of course, remember, he didn't know me. As he pointed out in his letter, he didn't know me, so he really didn't have to write the letter. All right, now for the football connection. The Super Bowl was always a big game, and people watched it, but the game and the game day weren't always the holiday-like, national holiday-like day it has become. On January 27th, 1991, I was at home watching the Super Bowl by myself between the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills. Now, I'm originally from New Haven, Connecticut, so the Giants were sort of my team. And just as the Bills were lining up with what would have been the game's winning field goal had they made it, Dori was asking me to help her with something in the kitchen. Despite my pleas that she wait at least a minute until after the kick, she was insistent, and I missed seeing, at least as it happened, what to date has been the most famous missed field goal attempt in NFL history. Now, before next year's Super Bowl, and remember, they're going to play this game every year, Dori asked me, again, which surprised me, if we wanted to host a Super Bowl party. I said, sure, but for the party to be a success, you have to host it every year, and that's what we did. With just a very few exceptions, we hosted a Super Bowl party every year from 1992 until the one played this year. We didn't host the one this year in 2025. Over the years, the party grew with many of the same people coming back year after year. There are some regulars, Super Bowl regulars here today, and unfortunately some of the people who regularly attended the party have passed away, including, for example, Barry Hertz. Now, Dori was just an amazing person. There are several people here from the Harris County Attorney's Office where Dori worked for so many years. There are people here from Jewish war veterans, from U.S. vets, her surviving brother and sister and their spouses, my brother and his wife, and our nephew, Nathaniel, their child who happens to live in Austin. And of course, many, many dear friends and people here from Bris Shalom, which has been a big part of our lives for over 40 years. I can't conceive of what my life would have been without Dori. And I'm not too sure what it's going to look like going forward without her. All right, we have two wonderful children, Jennifer and Hal, and they're equally wonderful spouses, Ido Keren and Shanee Singer, and three grandchildren, all of whom are here today. And until recently, we enjoyed good health, not only for Dori, but for me and Hal and Jennifer and Hal. Now, Dori was diagnosed with inoperable pancreatic cancer in December 2024. While the prognosis was grim, she was never actually sick even before she was diagnosed. And other than the side effects from the chemotherapy, she was never actually sick until the 24 hours before she died. She seemed to be responding positively to chemotherapy. She appeared healthy, again, up until she suffered this brain aneurysm on August 2nd. She was actually scheduled to begin radiation treatment on August 6th of this year, which would have been her 73rd birthday, and turned out to be the day of her funeral. I was just so incredibly lucky to be married to Dori for all those years. Dori, I love you. I really missed. Thank you.
Dori was raised in Tampa, Florida, the daughter of Jenny and Henry Wind. She was the third of 4 children. Her father, Henry, was a disabled veteran. She attended the University of South Florida and majored in communications. And she always had a strong desire to become an attorney. And so after a year working for a radio station in Florida, Dori enrolled in South Texas College of Law. Now in Houston, she met a young man named Robert Rolnick at a Jewish singles party on the beach at Freeport, Texas. After law school, Dori became a briefing attorney for a court of appeals, and then signed up with Harris County, where she became an attorney and public servant for over 45 years with the Harris County Attorney's Office. She worked in contract administration, litigation management, and adult protective services, and much more. She was passionate about her Judaism and became a leader here at Bris Shalom. She became co-president in Sisterhood and created and led many important initiatives for our synagogue. She created opportunities for us to visit U.S. veterans and honor U.S. veterans at Shabbat services. She created opportunities for us to do good in the world through her work on the Social Action Committee, organizing food drives. She was active in the synagogue and active in her chavuras. Her greatest joy was traveling with her husband to visit their family, particularly their children and grandchildren in Massachusetts and California. Bob and Dori traveled the world from the Panama Canal to Iceland, France, London, Geneva, Poland, Vienna, Australia twice. and New Zealand, and they made it to Israel 3 times, twice on a Federation trip, and once to visit Jennifer while she was in cantorial school. Dori was a dedicated wife, a loving mother, an adoring grandmother. She was a wonderful person, a good friend, and lived a life filled with positive energy that she shared with you, her family, and with us, her community. She was kind, smart, and always had words of wisdom to share. Dori lived life to the fullest and made every day count. She made a huge, meaningful impact on countless lives. She passed away suddenly while traveling in Boston, visiting her newest grandchild, Raphael, Keren, who was born in June. She had the diagnosis with pancreatic cancer in December 2024. May Dori's memory be for a blessing. May she rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. We invite Cantor Jennifer Rolnick to recite the El Male.
רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת דבורה חנה בת חנינה ושנדה שהלכה הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Dori Wind, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and together we say, Amen. Friends, let's rise in body or in spirit as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish. You can find the Mourner's Kaddish on the back of your pamphlets. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra kirute v'amlich machute, b'chaye echon u'b'yom echon u'b'chaye dachol Beit Yisrael, b'hagala u'b'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'mei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. To tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace above bring peace and comfort to us below. And together we say amen. Friends, this concludes the formal part of our memorial service, and we continue with stories and hugs and words of comfort. Thank you all so much for being here.